Hello, and welcome to the Sonoma County Vintners Foundation Community Conversations. My name is Madison Garzoli. I am the Membership and Foundations Programs Manager for the Sonoma County Vintners and the Sonoma County Vintners Foundation. I'm joined today by two phenomenal executive directors of two amazing organizations, Michael Haney of the Sonoma County Vintners and Sonoma County Vintners Foundation, and David Goodman from Redwood Empire Food Bank. So thank you both for joining me today. This is going to be a great conversation and taking a deeper dive on what's going on in the community. So I'd love to take this opportunity to have you both speak to the organizations and the work that's being done currently, the work that has been done this year, and just give a brief overview for our audience. So I'll start with Michael first.
Great. Thank you, Madison, so much. And it's a real pleasure to be here on our community conversation. And it's a great honor to be joined by David and the work that Redwood Empire Food Bank does. They're an extraordinary organization, and we couldn't be more proud to partner with them. But, you know, as we all know, 2020 has been an extraordinarily challenging year for so many and for all of us, actually, within our county. But in saying that, I'm also so very proud of our Sonoma County Vintners Foundation, our wine community, and then our amazing beneficiary partners like Redwood Empire Food Bank, who have stepped up and done just extraordinary work throughout our county this year. You know, in just 2020 alone, you know, our Sonoma County Vintners Foundation has put over $4 million back into our communities here in Sonoma County. We've supported over 80 separate nonprofit organizations. We approved flexible spending for our grants, which was really, really important for so many of our beneficiaries in order to be able to respond to COVID-19 when that came upon us so quickly. We also have activated our emergency relief fund to address COVID-19 and then, of course, wildfire issues that have developed. And another program that we activated was our winery and hospitality workers assistance fund, and that fund supported over 500 employees who had been furloughed or let go due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So we were very proud of that. And then, of course, we activated our COVID-19 testing program that ran for 8 weeks and is still actually going on in another form to assist our industry and those who needed a more rapid testing in that information quickly. And then, of course, we partnered with Redwood Empire Food Bank on a fantastic food distribution event here that really served so many people. And then, you know, Madison, I know something that's close to you is Giving Tuesday, which is coming up on December 1st. And we're looking forward to being able to raise more money to be able to assist our beneficiary partners. And I'll take this opportunity. Anybody that would like to donate or participate, go to our website, sonomawine.com/foundation, and you'll see more information.
Great. Thank you so much, Mike. We're so excited to be participating in Giving Tuesday this year. You know, we've seen the need grown exponentially this year. And so it's a great opportunity, and you know, we'd love any support that we can get for that. So awesome. David, I'll turn this over to you now to talk about a little bit about Redwood Empire Food Bank, some of your initiatives, who you impact, and then we'll go and ask some questions from there.
Sure. Well, thank you, Madison. So, and Michael, during the best of times, the Redwood Empire Food Bank is serving about 82,000 people here in Sonoma County. It's 1 in 6 people, and we're no better and we're no worse than anywhere else in the country. I mean, there are a couple pockets here and there that are a little bit better, a little bit worse, but in general, surprisingly, even in just the most spectacular place like Sonoma County, need is exactly equal to everywhere else. We just have different drivers. Some places it may be unemployment, some places it may be, you know, whatever the issues might be, but here the cost of living just puts a lot of people in stressful situations that they wouldn't normally have to experience. And so we feed Sonoma County. 75% of our food that we distribute, which is about $44 million worth of food, goes out through our own direct service programs. That is unique in food banking, that most food banks, the majority of their food goes out through partner organizations, nonprofit or faith-based organizations. But here we do the bulk of it ourselves. And then in addition, about 30%, 35% goes out with the nonprofit faith-based community. And so we're everywhere. We're at over 300 distributions throughout the month here in Sonoma County, making sure that people have access to food.
Wow,
And it goes on and on.
It's incredible the work that you do. And I did a little bit of perusing on your site, and just the impacts that COVID-19 has had this year is incredible. We see the need everywhere, and the demand for these services and goods, basic goods like food, perishable and non-perishable. And I think I read that since March 15th, Redwood Empire Food Bank has been able to serve over 30,000 people per month, which is just incredible. And I commend you and your team for the work that you do there, and especially during this crazy time that we're in right now. So one of my questions was really, how have you been able to pivot your programming through your 3 initiatives to adapt to the COVID-19 protocols and the guidelines that need to be put in place to ensure that your team, as well as those receiving your services, are kept safe?
Sure. Well, let me just say first that the Sonoma County Vintners and Sonoma County Vintners Foundation, one of the things about, we are a safety net. We're a safety net for the community. We're a safety net for the nonprofit and faith-based organizations that feed people. And if you can imagine a safety net, below the trapeze or something, if the safety net is sitting on the ground and somebody falls, it doesn't do anybody any good, right? They just hit the ground. So what is critical in services that we provide is that the net has to be up off the ground, and that the community together, working together, has to be holding that net up so that when people fall, they're saved. And the generosity that you have extended towards the Redwood Empire Food Bank, not just this year, not just last year, but as long as I've been at this organization, which has now been 20 years, is just staggering. It allows us to respond without hesitation, whether it is COVID-19, which I'll get to, or whether it's the public safety power shutdowns, whether it's a federal shutdown, whether it's the fires. We don't hesitate. We have a program here we call Station 3990, which is just borrowed from the firehouse station, and 3990 is our address. We just launch it, and it is activated during disaster, and then it shuts down, and it's activated during disaster. Unfortunately, the disasters are now layering. So the press calls me and says, "So what are you doing about the fires?" And I say, "Well, we're doing the same thing we're doing with COVID-19. Nothing has changed. We're still doing the same type of service because it's a disaster." So to answer your question, the biggest hurdle that we have faced is the social safe distancing has required that we have to put everything in boxes, and then those boxes are delivered in primarily drive-through distributions. So before COVID, people would get out of their vehicles or they'd get off the bus, whatever it might be, and they would line up for food, and they'd get their food at a food pantry or something like that. But that's not the case anymore. Now it looks much more like you're going to a rock concert or Taste of Sonoma or whatever it might be, and they're lined up 5 deep and 100 wide, and we take them one at a time, and we bring them through. And it looks like, to mix a bunch of metaphors, it's like a NASCAR detail where they drive up, they pop their trunk, they open their doors, volunteers put the food in, they go to the next stop, we put more in, and away they go, and then we send them on their way. So that has been enormous. We've had event tents, which is no stranger to vintners and anybody involved in your association, but enormous 50 by 100 foot tents where volunteers have been out for safe distancing in our parking lots. It's been really interesting, but relative to the Redwood Empire Food Bank, it's all happened at the right time. We're over 30 years old, and had this happened 15 years ago, we would have been a bunch of hayseeds trying to figure it out. But instead, we've grown up, we've matured as an organization, and we're capable of responding now. We consider ourselves first responders now, in particular with COVID-19, because this hasn't been a police, medical in terms of ambulance, paramedic, or fire. This has been hunger relief, frontline, first response.
You know, I think that's fascinating. You guys are first responders. There's no question about that. And I think that's an interesting analogy. And David, I know you guys were doing so much work even before the pandemic hit. And then, of course, when that came upon us and the other related issues that it brought, you started seeing obviously increased need, but you also started seeing people in need that maybe had not been to a food drive or a food distribution before. Can you talk about that?
Sure. Well, one of the interesting things about all disasters is disasters are the great equalizer.
Yeah.
You know that there you are in bed. It's 10 o'clock. You go to bed, and suddenly you're fleeing for your life. You're gainfully employed, and in a blink of an eye, there is a shelter-in-place order, and businesses are closed down. And you know, right before COVID-19 hit, do you remember that news story that was going around, which was the average American doesn't have access to more than $400 cash? Kind of, it was sort of a theoretical, I don't know, it was just a news story, interesting news story that people didn't have that kind of disposable income. Well, on March 15th, that sort of news story of interest became reality. And we all saw exactly what that meant, that within days, thousands more people were coming. So under normal times, under the best of worst times, we would be distributing 10,000 emergency food boxes a month. And we do a lot more than that, but that's just our emergency food box is 10,000. We're now averaging, it was peaking, as Madison said, at 30,000. We're now at about 27,000 a month. It just staggering in the way that goes. And so, you know, people are living on the edge. And what's interesting about the kind of work that we do is many of the government programs are designed for poor people, right? Low income people. So people have to sign an affidavit. Do you earn less than, and it would be, let's just say 140% of poverty or something. The problem is that when disasters strike, people are not poor. They don't identify as poor. They don't, they're just living. They're just like regular people. They just go to work, they earn a paycheck, they spend all of it because it's what it takes to live. But when you try to qualify for help in an official government way, they often don't qualify. And so we're sort of asking them to lie in order to get help. And that's where a private nonprofit like the Redwood Empire Food Bank steps in. Certainly we have government commodities and government programs that we administer, but we also are largely private. So anyone who needs help can get help. Anyone. Just if I can do a little side, I used to admire COTS in Petaluma, which is a homeless organization. You probably fund them. And I used to think how cool it was that in Petaluma, everybody who goes to bed in Petaluma knows that if somebody wants to be clean and sober, they can get help. And I used to want to be that for the Redwood Empire Food Bank. I wanted everyone in Sonoma County to know that if anyone's hungry, they can get help. And we've evolved, and that is the truth now, that on any given day, it may not be 1 mile away from your home, but on any given day, help is available to anyone who needs food assistance, which is just, people should be able to sleep well knowing that, or better anyway.
Definitely. And that's an amazing concept to have in the back of your mind for your organization, and that you're there for the community. One of the things that I've found just working with our beneficiary partners is that many of them work alongside Redwood Empire Food Bank, which is great. Purchasing food from your organization and your different food pantries, and it really makes it, you know, a community effort in order to serve the people in most need. So I know you briefly mentioned that in the beginning about partnerships and Redwood Empire Food Bank distributing perishable and non-perishable goods to other organizations. But if you could touch on that just a little more in detail, that would be great.
Sure. So we have, in addition to the Redwood Empire Food Bank's direct service programs, there are 12 that we have, which range from after school, you know, summer lunch, after school programs for children, senior programs, family programs, all of that. We also have 175 nonprofit or faith-based organizations that receive food from us. Some of them it's 100% of the food they receive. And others, it is a portion of the food that they receive because they're out in the community partnering with other donors, et cetera. And so that's it. And you know, the combination of their work, either independently or in conjunction with us, creates what we consider to be a hunger-free community. And what, this notion that there will never be hungry people is really not very practical. There have always been hungry people, but our definition of ending hunger in our community means that if you're hungry, you can get help and then you're no longer hungry. And so for the most part, we now are living in a hunger-free community for anyone who encounters that. And we don't do it alone. We've never done it alone. We do it with our 175 partners, but more importantly, we do it with our donors and you, and everybody who's listening to this broadcast. That it's we do a lot of great things here. We have over 8,500 volunteers. We're only 70 staff, and we're 8,500 volunteers. But all of that is terrific. But unless you have support, financial support, you can't fuel your trucks, you can't refrigerate your food, you can't pay your dedicated staff, you can't pay workers' comp, the whole thing. We are a nonprofit business, and it takes a tremendous amount to distribute $44 million worth of food.
Absolutely. David, you touched on a second ago, and I thought it was interesting about disasters and crisis and how suddenly they can come upon. We go to bed one night, as we learned in 2017, we went to bed and we woke up in the middle of the night with fires all around us. And and then you're fleeing for your life, or in COVID situation, you have a thriving business one day and the next day it's shut down. And those crises just affect so many people in so many ways. And then you add on, of course, outside of that, all of a sudden, the hunger issue, the housing issues, things of that nature. And to be able to take away one of those important issues, the food thing, and to have people to be able to know that there's a source during these times, I think is so critical. And in saying that, you have an amazing team. You talk about the volunteers and the organizations that really support you so much. I'm curious, if someone's listening here today and they say, I really want to help and support Redwood Empire Food Bank, what's the best way or ways that they can do that for you?
Well, so there's a great question. Thank you. First of all, if you just go to our website, if you just go to Google and look up Redwood Empire Food Bank, all of the ways to help are easy to find. You just press a button. It's they can donate food, they can volunteer, they can make a financial contribution. And back in the day, people would say, what is most important? Which do you need? And I would say, well, whichever one works for you. But that's no longer the case. Now we want all of it. We call it a complete serving. We need people to donate their time because we're 70 staff, and without volunteerism, nobody's getting fed. I can tell you that right now. I watch volunteers streaming past my window here all day long because we're in tents, as I mentioned, in the back right now. And I'm stunned that in the heat, in the smoke, in the discomfort of masks, people still come out and they want to help. I mean, it's, sometimes I speak at memorials, and when I speak at memorials, I always talk about time, and time is our most precious commodity. It's what we all have in common. And at the end of life, it's also, there's just not enough of it. And the fact that people give it away freely, I'm just forever amazed and grateful. It's just a precious thing. So, and then the funds, as I mentioned, you got to fuel the trucks, you got to pay the staff, got to refrigerate the food. And then the food, we're the Redwood Empire Food Bank. Without food, I think the word is irrelevant. So we definitely need food. So we basically the complete serving. And then I think specific to the wineries, and the Wineries Foundation and everything, what you can do in addition to those three items is you can make hunger relief and the issue of hunger important. I've been food banking now for 25 years, 20 here. And I have colleagues all over the country. So, in New York, they have the chefs that turn out and support the New York City Food Bank. In LA, they have Hollywood and the Hollywood stars, and in Memphis, it's the music. Well, you know what? Guess what we have here in Sonoma County? And so that is our power. That is our strength. That's our superpower, is wine and the wine industry. I mean, I've been involved with fundraising activities nationwide where other food banks around the country are like, we don't want money from wine or alcohol. And I'm like, okay, well, that's just fine. More for us. So we are entirely appreciative of everything that has been contributed in the support, and you know, we are entirely a reflection of the generosity that you extend our way, and by extension to the people who turn to us for help. I'm sorry I'm so long-winded. You know, I feel sorry for people. They ask me a question, I get all divergent and come back.
No, it is great. I love all the detail, and this has been super insightful and very helpful for us. You know, it really shows how all of our efforts are a community effort and that we're all in this together.
Absolutely.
I know countless of our winery members support nonprofits, and some support Redwood Empire Food Bank as well with their sales contributing, and do special promotions and such, to really support people who need it the most, and the amazing work that you and your team do. So thank you so much for that.
Oh, you're welcome.
Sincerely
Thank you.
Yeah, great. Well, Michael, do you have any other questions for David?
You know, I do actually. I have one more question, if I can. And David kind of touched on it. It was interesting to me how he talks about making hunger relief important. And that kind of developed a question for me is, David, what do you see right now here in Sonoma County related to hunger, related to Redwood Empire? Are your priority issues or your priority needs, or is there something that we're seeing coming at us that we need to be prepared for? What do you see happening out there?
Wow, Michael. That's the what keeps me up at night question. Well, so interestingly, I am always concerned about food. You know, because of what I described before, where we sort of slot in. I mean, we help people that have absolutely nothing to people that have some sort of means, but they just are struggling, you know, through loss of job, a second income in the home, injury, whatever it might be. So what always keeps me up is just wanting to make sure there's food. And this has been a banner year between trade mitigation with our, you know, trade war with China, and I'm not sure how it impacted your industry, but you know, the fact was that a bunch of food didn't get sent abroad, so the USDA and had to figure out where to put it, and lots of food banks benefited, and we were super aggressive and captured as much as we could and put it in remote storage. There's also been the Farmers to Family Food Program through the USDA, where they were purchasing commodities from farmers and producers, and that's been great. But we call it the cliff, and the cliff is about to come. That with all the political transition that's going on now, there's so much uncertainty, and I'm not a sky is falling guy, but I just, you know, where the food is going to come from, and if it's not donated food, then we have to buy it. So you can start to see the link. If it's not donated food that's coming our way, then suddenly the fundraising, the need to purchase more food, because you got to feed the people. There's one way or the other. We get a huge stretch when it's donated, but when it's not donated, then we need to purchase it.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's super dynamic, but you know, I am pleased to say that the Sonoma County and our support has grown lockstep with this organization as we've matured and grown up over the years. That if the largesse that you extend our way would have come, you know, 20 years ago, we wouldn't have been able to really handle it, but now we can handle it. So it's just been a lovely maturation of both us as well as our community and its capacity to support what we do.
Well, you know, I can tell you on behalf of our wine community and of course our foundation, David, we thank you for all the work you've been doing. As I said, you know, I'm so proud of our wine community out there, and I'm so proud of our partners like yourself for stepping up, meeting the needs, and being so visionary in addressing these issues as they come at us. So thank you.
Well, you are most welcome, and I must return the favor or the gratitude and just say thank you to everybody. because it's both the foundation and the association, and it's the individual wineries, but ultimately it just comes down to individual people. People make decisions, people get involved. And thank you, each and every one of you.
Great. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining today. We so appreciate your support. We appreciate Michael and David for joining us today. It's been a pleasure talking to you both and learning a little bit more about what's going on in the community. So we will be excited for the next conversation and hope that you can join us then. Thank you so much and have a great day.
Cheers.
Thank you.